Hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching the special presentation of Sunset TV, Bills and Insight, your one-stop destination for views, news and analysis of proposed legislations of India that have far-reaching implications and impact your life. I'm your host Kriti Mishra, and today the spotlight is on the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Amendment 2021. President Ramnath Kovind has given his assent to this bill, which was passed by Parliament in the recently concluded monsoon session. The amendment seeks to strengthen protection of children, including the ones who require protection under the law, as well as those who are in conflict with the law, and also streamline the process of adoption in the country. Let's take a look at the highlights of these amendments. Amendments include authorizing district magistrate, including additional district magistrate, to issue adoption orders. Childcare institutions shall be registered with the recommendations of the district magistrate. The eligibility parameters for appointment of Child Welfare Committee members have been redefined. Serious offences will also include offences for which maximum punishment is imprisonment of more than 7 years. So what are the changes that are being proposed? Under the Act, the adoption order issued by the court establishes that the child belongs to the adoptive parents. Now, the district magistrate, including additional district magistrate, will perform these duties and issue all such orders. The Act provides that there will be no appeal for any order made by a Child Welfare Committee. The amendment removes this provision and provides that any person aggrieved by an adoption order passed may file an appeal before the Divisional Commissioner within 30 days of such an order. Such appeals should be disposed within 4 weeks from the date of filing of the appeal. The Act provides that the Juvenile Justice Board will inquire about a child who is accused of a serious offence. The amendment adds that serious offences will also include offences for which maximum punishment is imprisonment of more than 7 years and minimum punishment is not prescribed or is less than 7 years. The Act provides that offences against children that are punishable with imprisonment of more than 7 years will be tried in the Children's Court. Other offences punishable with imprisonment of less than 7 years will be tried by a judicial magistrate. The bill amends this to provide that all offences under the Act will be tried in the Children's Court. And for deeper understanding of these amendments, I'm joined by an illustrious panel of guests. So we have with us in the studio Justice Gyan Sudha Mishra, former Judge, Supreme Court of India, and also Mr. Deepak Kumar, former CEO, CARA. Welcome to Sunset TV, both of you, and thank you so much for joining us. Also in the studio, we have with us a very vibrant audience. Some of them are lawyers and some of them are social workers. I welcome all of you on Sunset TV. And before we commence our discussion, let's take a look at how our parliamentarians debated this issue.
The proposed amendment puts the entire onus of the child's welfare on the district magistrates, ignoring the fact that the DMs have already been overburdened. They are overburdened authorities with the charge of the entire district on their shoulders.
ऐसा नहीं है कि चाइल्ड वेलफेयर कमेटी का काम बंद हो जाएगा, जुवेनाइल जस्टिस बोर्ड का काम बंद हो जाएगा और सारा काम का भार डीएम पर आने वाला है, ऐसा नहीं है. The district magistrate becomes not only the reviewing, the supervising, but also the synergizing officer for all needs of protection of children.
And Justice Mishra, let me begin the program with you. More than 900 cases of adoption are pending in various courts in the country. COVID has and will also make matters worse. The importance of this amendment in ensuring speedy disposal of cases. Your take, ma'am.
Yeah, it's a very happy position and a very welcome change that has been introduced for shortening the period of the adoption procedure, because we are all aware that the courts are already loaded with cases and laws delay, less said the better, for a variety of reasons. But in the matter of adoption, if it takes long, then it is all the more a very gruesome situation for the beneficiary, like the child, as also the parents. So this amendment which has been introduced, entrusting the authority and the powers to the administrative part, like district magistrate, to my mind, it's a very welcome change. Because I tell you, even like the law courts, even if it were before the law courts, ultimately notice is issued to the state government council, it was to be issued. And the, feedback comes by way of a counter affidavit from ultimately the government or the authorities who are looking after this. So if it is straight away given to the district magistrate to look into it, that's a very welcome change. But having said that, I would also like to caution, and I wish I had occasion to suggest this, that the district magistrate should also focus and concentrate a lot on the antecedents and background of the parents, parents who are adopting the child. Because what I could go through and scan the pages regarding this, the earlier provision under the Juvenile Justice Act, the courts went into meticulous inquiry of the antecedents of the parents also.
Yes.
But the magistrate, who are basically administrative officers, of course they are very wise and very understanding and very mature people. So I'm quite sure they will look into that aspect also. But while giving a certificate to the parents, the antecedents of the parents who are to adopt the child also should be very, very seriously taken care of. Because in my experience, while I was in the Supreme Court, I had a matter to deal with where the girl child was adopted by someone in the US, and that girl had a very, very grueling time with the adopted parents, and I don't know, might be that matter might still be pending. And the girl was deported to India, and later on, another couple wanted to adopt her, and there was a tussle.
Yes.
So, of course, these are not, very common, not always, but we have to take care, extreme care, because the entire focus is on the child's welfare in an adoption, and which of course is most appropriate. But who are the parents who are adopting, that should be very meticulously taken care of, and I would definitely anticipate that the district magistrate would take this task very, very seriously.
So, ma'am, it's a very welcome amendment, but you made a very pertinent point about child abuse. Let me take that to Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar, how do we avert and prevent child abuse after adoption?
There is a set process which is already defined in the JJ Act of 2015 and the regulations subordinate legislation which has been framed under it. That is known as Adoption Regulations 2017. So this has got a very streamlined process wherein initially the assessment of the parents, prospective adoptive parents, both in foreign country as well as in India, is done through a process known as home study. So there is a social worker who visits the families over a period of time. They do the interaction with the extended family. They look into the surroundings as well as the environment where the family is staying and what their psychological makeup is. And then based on that, they may prepare a home study report which makes the parents eligible or not eligible for adoption. So that's a confidential report prepared after the families register for adoption. So this is the process of scrutiny. Now, as far as foreign parents are concerned, there is authorized foreign adoption agencies abroad who are regulated by the respective country's central authorities, like CARA is the Central Authority of India. And then not only the home study is done, but there we are also asking for a psychological assessment or report of the parents. This we started after the infamous, in fact, Shirin Matthew case, where one child adopted from India was actually killed by the adoptive parents in US. So after that, even the psychological reports are being sought. So this is the first thing where we do the assessment through this process, which is a deliberate process. And even after adoption, there is a process of post-adoption follow-up, which is done for 2 years after the adoption has been done. The social workers do visit the families and then prepare a report, see whether the child has been integrated, whether they are being kept well by the family or not. And based on that, the report is submitted. In India, we take it 4 times every 6 months for the period of 2 years. In abroad, we take it 4 times in the first year, followed by 2 times in the second year. So 6 reports also come through the authorized foreign adoption agency abroad. So this is the whole process. In 2016, the moment I joined, adoption regulations were framed. And then we started studying the progress of the adoption cases. Now, Section 61 of the JJ Act of 2015 very clearly stipulated that all adoption orders or cases would be finalized by the family/district court within 60 days. That's given in the Act. Now, despite that, we realized that over a period of whatever assessment we did, we realized that almost 800 to 900 cases were pending beyond stipulated period, and out of which some of them were pending even beyond 1 year. Now, what resulted was that the families were unable to make birth certificates, they were unable to travel despite taking the child in pre-adoption foster care. The school admission couldn't be taken place for older children who were required to go to school. The health insurance plan and other things of the child, the other benefits couldn't be undertaken. So the parents were very anxious, and even the adoption was not legalized and the child was staying with them. So we initially approached the Juvenile Justice Committee of the Supreme Court. Thereafter, they stated initially that the judges should be sensitized, that we should have extensive training. A bench book was prepared by us. Then I had training of the judiciary almost in all the judicial academies of the state as well as National Judicial Academy. Yes. We even realized that many of the cases that it was vacant because the family court or district court judge was not there. Right. And hence these cases are pending. So it was important that we need to remove that and take it to the district magistrate.
All right, so there are checks and balances. But talking about another important aspect of this amendment, Justice Mishra, during the Delhi Nirbhaya gang rape of 2012, we all remember that it had an indelible impact on the public perception as well as the JJ law of 2015. After that, it was felt that several offences were not covered within the Act. Therefore, these amendments were brought. The ambit has been expanded. How will it further fortify the juvenile justice structure in the country?
So far as I am concerned, I have a slightly, in one of my judgments also, I have observed that it's the maturity, it's not merely the age, it's the maturity of the child which should be taken care of to assess whether he was in a position to understand the implications, what he was going to do. So that also should be taken care of. The age has been decreased from 18 to 16 to judge the offense of the child. So, but the question is that it will definitely, improve the scope to delve deep into the offense committed by the accused child. But we also have to bear in mind that many a times, there's focus to prove that the child is not of that particular age. So, and a lot of time, because when quite a large number of hours were wasted, I would say, and not only wasted, it went appeal after appeal, only came up even up to the Supreme Court, that this was rightly I mean, this cannot be tried in a normal court, and it should be tried in a juvenile court. And so, in that sense, it's a very welcome change that all offences will be tried by the children's court, because at least yes. But some part of it will have to be assigned, that when a child is admitted, that time itself, this what I trying to convey is that it should not be left to a further scrutiny whether the child is a juvenile or not.
Yes.
So because a lot of time is wasted, and a lot of scapegoats also are made out of it.
Yes.
In that sense, it will shorten the period of trial, which is very good. But the categorization also of the 3 offences, because under the IPC, even a 7-year-old child yes. case can be booked. But under this act, if all the matters are confined to one organ of the children's court, but I say that should not be, that children's court should not only be composed of by one officer, one judicial officer, but it should also be like, in a particular court there are benches. So there should be, the composition of that court should be, expanded in the sense that it should be taken care of that only one judge is not looking after that case. Because to infer that only one person will be able to, expedite the matters, that the delay comes, it's a compulsion that the delay creeps in.
Absolutely, ma'am. But another objective that we need to closely look at, of course, is about the implementation of the 2015 law. Mr. Kumar, the NCPCR audit of 2020 found out that 39% of childcare institutions were not even registered. How do you think that these amendments will make these institutions more accountable now?
Yes, the childcare institutions are supposed to work under the ambit of the JJ Act. It is very clearly defined in the Act also. But there were childcare institutions which were trying to take leeway of some other acts also, like there were Orphanage Act, there were a Society Children Act, and there were some other laws which were permitting agencies to keep children for various other purposes. So they were relying on those and trying to fight out for not registering because they would be further scrutinized. There were cases going on in Kerala High Court and other places, but a very good judgment was passed by Honorable Supreme Court, then Justice Gogoi. He was before he became the Chief Justice. So that was another landmark judgment in which it was stated that everybody has to register within the 6 months of the judgment, else you have to close down the agencies. So after that, a lot of effort were made, and I think a year ago when I moved out from Kara, by then most of the childcare institutions had been registered by the state government, and the things were getting streamlined.
All right, of course, now we expect that this would get further streamlined. And now let's open the floor to the questions of our audience. Please introduce yourself and speak your mind.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Mohammad Ashraf. Ma'am, DM are a lot of work in their own business. But ma'am, they have also focused on Juvenile Justice Act.
All right. So what I can understand, ma'am, that...
No, I could understand his
yes,
question.
DM is already part of 75 committees.
That's a concern quite,
Yes.
And from several quarters it is coming up. But I don't think it's such a matter of grave concern. I'll tell you why. Because, the law and order situation, there are variety of work that is being assigned to the district magistrates. So the district magistrate also will have the the backup to handle those cases. Like these so far as evidence part is concerned, scrutiny part is concerned, he will have a team. Like when they conduct the inquiry, so it can be taken care of. Because I quite understand that that district magistrate is just one in a particular district. But there are, additional who can be coordinated, and that I guess that can be worked out and be taken care of. Because so far as the modality and the structure is concerned, the idea is the court should be, which is already overburdened, and these are the matters which are basically, you know, feedback comes from the administration. You know, these are in the, you know, growing stage.
Yes.
Let's share the experience and see how.
And the situation is extremely dynamic. Mr. Kumar, I can see that you want to make a point. The question posed here, of course, is that are we overburdening our magistrates?
Ma'am, this was a very genuine concern, and I would like to supplement what ma'am has said. This was discussed during the Empowered Ministers Committee also, before the Act was being finalized, Amendment Act. The point to note is that district magistrates already have got a lot of agencies under its ambit, which would be working in this direction, like the Child Welfare Committee, District Child Care Protection Unit, and such other agencies. There is a Juvenile Justice Committee also at the state level. So they are there who are going to supplement them. And now he has been made the administrator, so he'll be able to, he should be able to manage it. Second thing, based on the discussion, the ADMs are also included. So if you read the amendment, it is not only DM, it is the ADM as well. So that further empowers him to delegate also some of the tasks to the ADM. So I think it should be managed that way.
All right, let's take the next question now.
My name is Muskan. मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जैसे चाइल्ड इंस्टीट्यूशंस होते हैं उसमें हम चाइल्ड्स के लिए और क्या क्या सुविधाएं कर सकते हैं?
जैसे बार बार हमने फोकस किया है कि जो बच्चा जब थोड़ा बड़ा हो जाता है तो अलग बात है, लेकिन जब तक वो छोटा है तो उसका उसकी देख रेख कोई ऐसी एजेंसी के थ्रू होनी चाहिए, जो उन्होंने बताया अभी हमारे सहयोगी वक्ता ने कि वो देखते हैं। लेकिन ये एक मेरे ख्याल में समय समय पर इसकी मॉनिटरिंग तो होनी ही चाहिए, और अगर बच्चा समझने बूझने की स्थिति में है और उस समय मेरे ख्याल में अगर बच्चा छोटा भी है तो उसको ये नहीं कि बस 6 महीने तक देख लिया, 1 साल तक देख लिया, वो बच्चा बड़ा हो जाता है तब भी मेरे ख्याल में उसके बाद उसकी खुद से उससे बातचीत होनी चाहिए किसी मतलब डिपेंडेबल एजेंसी से, या तो एजेंसी बात करे और नहीं तो किसी ऑफिसर को भी। वो कहने का मतलब कि वो बच्चा जो अडॉप्शन में गया वाकई अब वो कम से कम 18 साल तक तो उसकी मतलब उसकी जानकारी होनी चाहिए, और कुछ ऐसे तरीके से होने चाहिए ताकि बच्चे को, देखिए ये एक साइकोलॉजिकल भी है। अब बच्चे को अब एक तरफ तो वो माता पिता मान रहा है, फिर वो देखेगा कि इनसे पूछताछ हो रही है, तो वो एक साइकोलॉजिस्ट भी उसमें रहे और वो देखे कि कैसे डिस्क्रीटली उसके वेलफेयर, यानी नटशेल में उसका वेलफेयर जो है वो उस पर नज़र तो रखनी चाहिए। हर तरह के लोग दुनिया में हो जाते हैं। कई बार हमने ये भी कहानी सुनी है, कहानी या घटना जो कहिए, कि कई बार लोग ले लेते हैं ताकि वो फिर उसका डोमेस्टिक हेल्प के तौर पे काम करे, तो कहने के लिए तो वो अडॉप्टेड चाइल्ड है। लेकिन खैर हर तरह के लोग दुनिया में होते हैं, बहुत अच्छे भी हैं, ज़्यादातर तो मेरी समझ से अच्छे ही हैं, क्योंकि जिनके खुद के बच्चे नहीं हैं तो उनके लिए तो एक भगवान की देन होती है।
टाइम फॉर द लास्ट क्वेश्चन नाउ।
If I want to adopt a child, so what is the responsibility from Kara, that if the child get disabled with the health issues or so many litigations in this regard, so how could he help in this matter?
Mr. Kumar, that's a very, very valid concern that is being flagged.
Okay, so what happens is there are two kinds of children who are there legally free for adoption. One are the normal children, and the second is the category known as special need. So these are two categories made after a detailed medical examination is carried out as per the standard test and the format given in the adoption regulations. Now, once the tests are conducted, there are certain ailments or disabilities or special conditions which defines a child as special need for the purpose of adoption. So they are placed separately. So there are families who want to adopt special needs, they can pick up from there. Now those normal kids are sent on referral. The problem is when the parents who get the referral, they believe that these children are not exactly normal, but they've got some issues and they complain. Once such complaint comes, we refer them to a committee of doctors from AIIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi. So once we refer them, the doctors panel from AIIMS finally decides whether the child is normal or special needs. If they decide the child is special needs, the referral is taken off and the parents are given another referral. If the child is normal, the same is conveyed to the family and they can proceed ahead with the adoption. That's the normal procedure followed.
All right, so that is a procedure. And now I just have 90 seconds on the show. Time for closing comments from both my guests. Justice Mishra, way ahead for effective implementation of these amendments.
Closing comments, I would say that, feedback should be taken after an year or so, that how, vis-a-vis the court's work and the district magistrate, how it has speeded up the entire process. And then after that report, in addition to that, what steps have been taken by the district magistrate to ensure the welfare of the child and their life with their adoptive parents. These are the two things in which the reports should be called, and I would suggest that it should be placed before the National Legal Services Authority and the State Legal Service Authority to look for what should be the way ahead.
All right, Mr. Kumar, there should be constant monitoring. That's what Justice Mishra says. Your closing comments, your closing thoughts.
Ma'am, this is a very important amendment, and I think it should resolve the two important issues. The first problem we observed was the implementation of the Act at the grassroots level. So the grassroots level, the Child Welfare Committee, District Child Care Protection Unit, these are the people who are working. So this required to be strengthened, and also the monitoring by the district administration was required to be done at a greater extent. So this issue has been addressed here. And the second was, we realized that there was undue delay in the court procedure for adoption when all the assessment test and everything was done, and the court was required to go through the documents, see whether everything is okay or not, and pass an order. Whereas if you look at other acts, Hindu Adoption Maintenance Act, you don't even need to go to a court. You just make a deed and you finalize it. So there was one act which was very simple, no record, nothing. Another act was very stringent. So this also required to be made a little bit easier, and that was one of the reasons where the delays could have been mitigated. So these two issues have been resolved, primarily for the children who are in need of care and protection.
So in conclusion, we can say that suitable amendments have been made to remove the difficulties arising in the interpretation of various provisions of the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection Children Act of 2015 to ensure that protection of children becomes a priority. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Justice Mishra and also Mr. Kumar. Next week, we'll return with incisive analysis of another important bill. Till then, take care and stay tuned to Sunset TV.